Selina tried not to watch the clock, but couldn't help it. It was 9:15 on a Friday night, and there were only 3 people in the Rusty Spur Saloon. She had finished up all of the chores that needed to be done before opening. Full kegs of beer sat under the counter. The worn bar shone with cleanliness, and all of the mugs and glasses were washed and ready to be filled. She turned on the TV that hung to one side of the bar and flipped through the stations, but found nothing that interested her. She wasn't into basketball, and since it was late March, it wasn't football season. She finally put on CNN and let it ramble on in the background. Jack Fulmer, an old-timer who hung around the Spur a lot, smiled at her. "Nothing much going on, huh?" Selina gave him a tight smile and refilled his beer mug without him asking. She prided herself on anticipating the needs of her patrons. Her father, Ron King, wouldn't have been surprised by the lack of clientele if he had still been alive. The bar had been on the decline in the last years of his life, as had his health. At the young age of 19, Selina King had become sole owner of the Rusty Spur Saloon. She'd grown up in the bar and knew the business backwards and forwards. She was a hard worker and was intelligent, the right combination to run a successful business. The problem was that the economy and her hometown were starting to change, and bars like hers weren't as popular as they once were. Selina tamped down the disappointment that Jack's sympathetic comment had sparked and replaced it with determination. She'd had several offers to buy the place, but was steadfast in her desire to turn the bar around. Selina fully intended to honor her father's memory by keeping the Spur open and making it a hot spot again. After checking on the other 2 people in the place, a younger couple about her age, Selina went back to the bar and pulled out her laptop from underneath it and logged onto the internet. She belonged to some business forums that offered advice and checked to see if there were any responses to some posts she had made earlier in the day. The rumble of motorcycles crept into her consciousness as she read. When they continued to get louder, she looked up from her computer. She was sure that the motorcycles were just going to cruise on by. They usually did. However, the motorcycles growled at a deafening roar as the bikes pulled into the Spur's parking lot. Judging by the number of motors she was hearing, there were a lot of people who would be walking through the door in just a few moments. She rushed into the kitchen and shouted for Larry, one of her 2 bartenders, who was apparently out back smoking a cigarette. He poked his head in the door and said, "I heard them, Toots. I'll be right there." Selina didn't respond. She hightailed it back out to the barroom and double-checked that everything was in place. Larry appeared at her elbow just as the first of the customers shoved the door open and entered loudly. She'd inherited Larry along with the bar and had been a second father to her over the years. He was a tall, slight man with short-cropped white hair and lively dark eyes. He was never in a hurry and yet somehow managed to get things done when they needed doing. Selina was excited to see so many people streaming into the place. She estimated that there was easily 20 of them. They were mostly men, but there were a few women with them. She recognized Crusher, the leader of the Vipers, one of the 2 larger motorcycle gangs in Fairfield County.